Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know, my name is Faith and thank you so much for watching. I read 4 books in the month of March and today we're going to talk about them. This video will contain spoilers, so if you want to avoid that, I did go ahead and put timestamps of when I talk about each book in the description. And let's just get right into it. So the first book that I read was The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy, and I loved this book. I was really excited to read this because I love Elle Kennedy's Briar U off-campus campus diary series. If Elle Kennedy writes a hockey romance, you bet I'm gonna read it. This was my first Why Choose, so yeah, while I say I was excited, I was also really nervous because I'm not really into the whole poly thing. If you are, cool. I'm not. So I was really nervous that I really wouldn't like this book, but I actually did like it a lot. And now I'm not gonna say I'm gonna go hunt out Why Choose romances, but if I see a book and I read the description and it happens to be Why Choose, it's not gonna be a reason for me to turn it away. So this book was 5 stars for me. My only complaint really with this book is that there was almost a 200-page chunk where we didn't get Will's point of view. His point of view ended at page 229 and then we didn't get it again until page 410. So for a book about 3 people that's only about 500-ish pages, having almost half of that not contain one person's point of view was kind of weird to me. Again, this was the first Why Choose I've ever read, so I don't know if others do that. I just figured it'd be kind of an even mix between the 3 people's point of views, but it really just wasn't. I really liked all the characters. I loved Beckett. I loved Will. I liked Charlie. It was just kind of weird that we got Will's point of view significantly less than both Charlie and Beckett's. Like I said, that's really my only complaint with this book. It was still 5 stars. I loved it. Maybe I'll read another Why Choose, who knows. So I finished Charlie Method and I was super excited. I was like, I'm gonna have such a great reading month. I was so excited for every book I was gonna read this month. So after Charlie Method finished, I picked up Fear the Flames. If you watched my March reading lineup, which was actually the first video I posted on here, you would know that I was so excited to read this book. So I was really upset that I ended up DNFing it. I had a lot of issues with this book, and I read 45% before I decided I couldn't do it anymore. I spent 10 days of the month reading this book. I just couldn't spend another minute on it. I really liked the plot. I think the plot had a lot of potential. I don't know if I just expected differently from this book or what. I did not like the writing. It felt very Wattpad to me. And I say that if you see books behind me, specifically the Twisted series by Anna Wong, I know a common critique of those books is that those feel like Wattpad. Personally, I didn't feel like that with those, but I can see where other people may have thought that. But this book felt like a Wattpad book to me, and I just didn't like it. I've taken writing classes and we're always told show, don't tell, and that's not something that authors have to follow, but when you're showing me and telling me 2 different things, that's where the problems come in, because what she would tell us about the main character wasn't what she would show us about her. She's mistrusting. I don't know what the word would be, but she's kind of blocked off. Like, she doesn't let people in easily, and that's just not what you saw from her actions. There was almost no hesitation to accept an alliance with Caden. It seemed like she was swayed very easily. When they got to his kingdom, his friends also, she seemed to not have a hard time letting them in, which would be fine if that's what we were told about her character, because what we're told about her character is just it's not at all what we're shown. That was my biggest issue with the book. I had no problem with either one, if that makes sense. Who we were told she was, I've read books with main characters like that. Who we were shown that she was, I've read books with main characters like that. I don't have a problem with either of those. The problem lies in the fact that you're telling us that she's this person, but you're showing us that she's this completely different person, and to me that just doesn't work. This book also just felt like YA, and I have absolutely no problem with YA. You'll find that out when I talk about the next book that I read. Some of the best books I've ever read are YA books. When I pick up an adult romantasy book, I'm expecting an adult romantasy book, and that's just not what this felt like. I think that this book has spice. I didn't get far enough into it to experience that. If she takes the spice out, this could be a YA book. And again, there's no problem with that. It's just that it's not a YA book. It's an adult book, so it should read like an adult book. I also did not like the pacing. I'm not a fan of insta love, which is pretty much what this felt like. And again, my main issue with that is that we're told she's this mistrusting person. It takes a while to get her out of her shell, to get to know her, and that's just not what she showed. And Elowen, the main character, was very quick to like Caden. Like I said, I finished at 45% and there were already feelings between the two, which all books pace differently, so that's not that big of a deal. It's like the author just wanted to write two separate storylines and couldn't decide between the two, so she tried to combine them, and it just didn't work because like I said, everything we're told is not what we're shown. I think at about 35% into the book, Ellen and Caden are talking, and she's like, I feel something flutter in my stomach when I'm talking to him. First of all, I don't like when books use any sort of thing like that as, oh, I felt a little tingle in my tummy. I don't know what it is. While we don't get Caden's point of view, Elowen very clearly just likes him but just doesn't want to admit that to herself. I also just wasn't a fan of the writing style. It seemed to just jump around a lot. It skipped little steps. Sometimes it makes sense, other times it wouldn't. It did not flow well at all, in my opinion. So yeah, I ended up DNFing this book for all those reasons. Honestly, I'm proud of myself for pushing to 45% because I wanted to DNF at about 20% into the book. I know some people think that if you DNF a book, you shouldn't rate it, but I read 45%, and to me that's enough to be able to properly rate this book, and I give it 2 stars. The only reason I'm not giving it 1 star is because, like I said, the plot did have potential, and I actually did like the plot. In my opinion, it was just executed very poorly. Moving on from my worst read of the year so far, we're going to what I think was probably the best read of the year so far, which, to no surprise, Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I loved this book. I finished it the day it came out. It was incredible. It was incredible. Suzanne outdid herself. I also will say, sobbed so much. I sobbed a lot, Suzanne. I cried so much reading this book. I cried on page 1 because I remember what happens. I remember the recap of his games in, I believe it was Catching Fire. It showed us how he won it, and it told us that his mom died and that his love died. So on page 1, when it said, I'm hoping to finish my work before the ceremony so I can devote the afternoon to the 2 things I love best, wasting time and being with my girl, Lenore Dove, y'all know that had me crying. Y'all know, page 1, I'm not even kidding, that made me tear up. My girl, Hamish? Guys, I'm not much of a drinker myself. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, Suzanne? I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. I loved this book. This book was so good. And oh my god, when they go to training and Ampert is like, my dad's over there, and it's Beatty. Suzanne, I feel that was unnecessary. Just everything about this book, it had me sobbing. Ampert's death also, the squirrels, that was so sad. That was devastating. This book just connected so many dots. It connected dots that I didn't know needed to be connected. And I have not one single complaint, not one single critique about this book. It was incredible. And after I finished it, I got into bed that night and I started crying again because this book emotionally destroyed me. It emotionally destroyed me. The next day, I was thinking about, oh my god, I have to watch this play out in a movie theater. I have to watch Hamish go through that on the big screen. I have to see it play out in real time. And that thought again destroyed me on top of everything else. I don't see enough people talking about this. How at the end, when his mom and brother died and they came out in one coffin, and I forget who it was, but he was like, they died in each other's arms. I thought we'd keep them that way. I had to put the book out and just cry. Because what? Suzanne? That was unnecessary to write, and you didn't need to rip my heart out like that. And I'm gonna charge you for my therapy bill because of what the hell, Suzanne. And then Lenore Dove. Don't get me started on Lenore Dove. The gumdrops. How he gave her the gumdrops. This book ruined me. What the? Oh my god. I just finished it. And then we learned that Mags and Wyrus were tortured by the Capitol. I took it as that's the reason Mags can't talk. Because I don't remember if it said or if it was just a theory that Mags had a stroke and that's why she couldn't talk. Now that we learned that she was tortured by the Capitol after what Hamish did, I think that's why she can't talk. This book was just so good. Admittedly, before this book came out, I know, I'm just like the Capitol. I did want Phoenix Games. And then I read this and I was like, I can't do that. I can't handle that. We all know that Snow sold Finnick's body, and I just don't need to be reading about that, if I'm being honest. And listen, in my mind, Finnick is alive with Annie and his son in District 4 living his best life, right? I know that's not how it ended, but it's how it should have ended. Suzanne, that's how it should have ended. If Suzanne writes a Hunger Games book, y'all know I'm gonna read it. But can I handle it? No. I actually saw someone point out that they don't think we're getting another book because now she's written about all 4 District 12 victors, and that actually makes a lot of sense to me, so I wouldn't be surprised if we never get another Hunger Games book. I'm gonna be honest, I think part of the reason that she wrote this book was because of how y'all were acting after Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out. Because what do you mean I felt sympathy for Snow? What do you mean I was rooting for Snow? Did we read the same book? Did we watch the same movie? I fear not. And I actually think that I might make an entirely separate video on Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because I personally don't understand why any of you guys sympathize for Snow because there was not a single thing he did in that book or that movie that was not done out of his selfishness. I digress. This was probably my top read of the year so far. Any Hunger Games book that Suzanne writes, I'm gonna read. In case I forgot to say, we're gonna give it 6 stars because it was just that good. Next, we come to my final read of March, Flawless by Elsie Silver. I started this book the day after I finished Sunrise on the Reaping. This book took me almost 2 weeks to read. I think a large part of that was because Sunrise on the Reaping was so good. I had such a bad book hangover after it. I just couldn't really get into this book until probably March 27th. So if you watched my last video, you already know this, but for those who didn't, I actually planned to read another book after this, but I just could not finish this fast enough. I finished this March 31st at like 10 p.m. This book was 4 stars for me. It is enough for me to continue the series. Plus, I've heard that this is most people's least favorite. I think the third one, Powerless, is most people's favorite. I think that one's hockey. One of them's a hockey romance, and y'all know I love hockey romances. So I will be reading. I will continue, just not right now. I've got other things I would like to read first. Overall, it was really good. I just couldn't really get into it, so that's part of the reason I gave it only 4 stars. I also did not really like how brushed aside it was that Summer was groomed. I feel like her dad didn't have a very fatherly reaction. If I was in Summer's place and my dad found out that that happened to me, he'd probably go to jail. That's all I'm gonna say. Also, it was weird because I feel like we didn't get a good wrap up on her and her sister's relationship. I don't know the couples of the other book. I know who the boys are, but I don't know who all the girls are. I want to say the next book is Kate and her best friend. So I don't know if Winter is going to come in, as a divorcee with her child, because I know she's pregnant. So I don't know if we're going to get a wrap on their relationship in her book, if she even has one. Even if she doesn't, though, I feel like Summer's story just kind of feels incomplete without that. So unless Winter does have a book, I feel like that's kind of a weird way to leave their story, because if I remember correctly, the last interaction we get is just those text messages that are at the beginning of the chapters of Summer being like, hey, I'm sorry, can we talk? And then Winter's like, I'm pregnant, I need space, or like something like that. I just felt that was a very weird place to wrap that up. I also don't know if it was mentioned previously that Winter was married to Rob. When I got to that part, I was gagged. I genuinely did not expect that. I don't know if I just wasn't paying close enough attention, because like I said, it took me a bit to get into the book. So I don't know if it was mentioned before and I just skipped over it. If I did, I'm glad I did, because sorry if y'all expected that and I'm just dumb and didn't realize that, but I did not expect Winter to be with Rob. That was insane to me. Insane. Honestly, my biggest issue with this book is that the reactions people had to her being groomed just did not feel right to me. The doctor 100% groomed her, and I just feel the reactions to that by other characters weren't how real family and friends would react. Maybe I just have really good family and friends. Reading it, it really felt like Red was the only one who cared that she was groomed and realized, hey girl, you a victim. But I feel the reactions to it were inappropriate. It almost felt like they kind of didn't care. Everything else I really did like. I do think it, no matter what book I would have read after Sunrise on the Reaping, it would have been hard for me to get into. I'm not sure if that was necessarily this book or just because the timing of when I read it, but overall, 4 stars. I still would recommend it, and like I said, I will be continuing the series, just not in April. Those are all the books that I read, and before I wrap things up, I would like to say I've had someone comment on 2 of my videos that they want to see what books are on my shelf. So I was gonna give a bookshelf tour, but then they deleted their comment, so I never did. But then they commented on another one of my videos, and then they deleted that one again, so I never did it. So if that's you, leave your comment up, babe, and I'll do it. Or if any of you want a bookshelf tour, I will absolutely do that. Just leave your comment up, please. But yeah, that's really all that I have for you guys today. I have new videos every Sunday at noon, so be sure to keep an eye out for those. And I'm gonna do a little self-plug real quick. I also have an editing channel I will put in the description that you guys should check out because I made a Hunger Games edit recently and I'm really proud of it. You guys should watch that. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for more content and follow my Instagram, which is in the description, for more bookish content. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys. Bye!